The Great Barrier Reef, the largest reef in the world, contains a vast biodiversity and has been on this earth for almost 20 million years. It is believed that the Aboriginals were the first ones to use this reef dating back almost 40,000 years ago. All this beauty has been around for so long, but now, because of climate change and the rise of CO2 in the ocean, the reef is in grave danger. When Captain Cook first described the beautiful reef with all its life and biodiversity, he said it was like another world down there. But since then, a lot of this beauty has been lost. It wasn't until 1981 when the Great Barrier Reef became Queensland's first World Heritage Site. This site stretches over 2,000 kilometers along the coastline, covering 35 million hectares. This massive reef is protected by the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park, state marine parks, and national parks. All these different groups have to come together in order to protect this amazing reef. The IUCN category for this great reef is a Category 5 Protected Landscape/Seascape. This is a protected area where the interactions of people and nature over time has produced an area of distinct character with significant ecological, biological, and cultural value, and where safeguarding the integrity of this interaction is vital to protecting and sustaining the area and its associated nature conservation and other values. There are many threats that go along with the Great Barrier Reef, but one of the largest threats that they have is the loss of coral. Since the 1960s, almost 50% of all coral in the Great Barrier Reef has been lost. This threat is accompanied by many underlying and indirect threats. Some of these underlying and indirect threats are pollution from ports nearby, pollution in the air in general that gets into the ocean, causing the rise of CO2 and coral bleaching, increased visitation, which leads to more pollution within the water and more CO2 in the air. All these underlying causes are reasons for coral bleaching within the Great Barrier Reef, making the beautiful world that Cook and his men described a distant memory. There is still hope for the Great Barrier Reef. Science has shown that reefs are able to come back if they can get the protection, and as of July of 2018, the Australian and the Queensland government came out with a new plan to hopefully fix all these threats by the year 2050. Some of the ways they plan to combat these threats is by reducing all the dumping of dredged materials in the reef to zero, prohibiting capital dredging, increase protection around Curtis Island and Keppel Bay, halt and reverse the decline in water quality entering the reef from agricultural pesticides loads being reduced by 26%, sediment loads being reduced by 11%, total nitrogen load by 10%, and dissolved inorganic nitrogen by 16% compared to a 2009 baseline. These are just a few of the ways that they are combating the threats that are facing the Great Barrier Reef. And they have an appointed Queensland Minister of the Great Barrier Reef to help see all these fixes come to fruition. One problem with the Great Barrier Reef is the fact that it is so beautiful. There's a huge dilemma with the shifting baseline syndrome in terms of people seeing the reef and thinking it looks beautiful, but compared to when Cook saw it back in 1770, it has changed drastically. Another dilemma is the sustainable use limit. The reef has only so many fish that can be taken out and so much coral that can be lost before it'll be gone forever. The last management principle is the risk and incident management system. Within the reef, there are many risks that come in terms of coral bleaching and spilling of pollutants in the water that the park and other systems will have to manage for in order to keep it from getting worse. The Great Barrier Reef has gone through a lot and still has a lot to go through, but hopefully, with the plan put in place by the year 2050, we'll be able to see the reef at just a fraction of what Cook was able to see back in 1770.